Hi class, welcome to lesson 63. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to name branched hydrocarbons. Recall that hydrocarbons are compounds that only contain carbon and hydrogen. Today, we are going to name and draw organic structures. I recommend you use your guided notes, but if you wish, you can take notes on your own. Make sure you take good notes and bring your questions to class. Let's get started. So the first question you're probably asking is, what is a branched hydrocarbon? So you can see here, a branched hydrocarbon has a string of carbons and there's a branch hanging off of it. So notice here we have a continuous string of carbons here, and then there's this branch that hangs off of it. Now, in this branched hydrocarbon, above what we have is this is the structural formula, and then here we have the condensed formula showing the branched hydrocarbon, but they actually mean the exact same thing. There are three basic things that you want to do when naming branched hydrocarbons. The first thing you want to do is find the longest continuous chain of carbons and write that name. Now we call this the last name because this name is going to go to the very right. So all of the branch names will write in front of this name. Now, all the branches that are hanging off this long continuous chain are called alkyl groups. So the suffix YL will help us indicate that these are branches and not part of the main chain of carbon. And we'll want to number the location of the branches, much like we number the location of double or triple bonds, making sure, just like in double or triple bonds, that the number is the lowest possible number. So we'll have to manipulate or number our main chain in two directions, from left to right and right to left, and figure out which sequence of numbers gives us the chains located on the lowest possible number. Now, one little warning here is to make sure that when you're looking for a branch, you indeed have a branch and you don't just have a bent chain. So all of these, even though there are some of these areas look like branches, you can see that these are actually continuous. So the continuous test that you do is just take your finger from one end and see if you can touch all the carbons to the other end without lifting it. So here we don't have branches. All of these are four continuous carbons, even though the chains are slightly bent. So once you find a branch, you'll want to count the carbons in that branch and use the prefix from table P to indicate the number of carbons in the branch, and the suffix YL will indicate that it is a branch. So one of the common branches we'll have is just a one carbon branch, and so that suffix YL will be added to the prefix meth to give us methyl. So let's take a minute to name this branched hydrocarbon.
This hydrocarbon, the first thing you want to do is make sure that it's indeed branched. So you're going to start at the end, the terminal, and trace your finger along the chain to another end and see that you actually have a branch. So here I can see I have a branch because as I go from end to end, I can't actually touch this carbon without lifting my finger. So I also need to find the longest parent chain. So this is 4 carbons long, and here is my branch. So I'm going to circle my branch for a second, and then I'm going to focus on the parent chain first. So in this parent chain, I have 4 carbons. So 4 carbons means I'm going to use the prefix but. And then I have all single bonds, so the suffix ane. So this is called butane. That's the parent chain. But since we have this extra carbon, we're going to need to name it. So we have to identify the location of this branch. So we'll have to make sure we number our chain from left to right and from from right to left. And so in this number scheme, this chain is either on carbon number 2 or carbon number 3. So we always want it to be the lowest possible number, so we're going to choose 2. Now, once you start numbering your carbon chain, the other numbers cannot be used at all for any other parts. This branch is on carbon number 2. So let's name the branch. This branch has 1 carbon. According to reference table P, that means it's meth. And to indicate that it is a branch, we're going to end it in YL. So this is called 2-methyl butane.
Now, this hydrocarbon actually has multiple branches, so let's see how we are going to name this hydrocarbon.
So here we have our parent chain, and here we have branches hanging off. So the first thing we want to do is focus on our parent chain and count the carbons. So here there are 7 carbons in our parent chain, so that is the prefix hept. And we can see all of these carbons are singly bonded, so it's heptane. And here we have 2 branches. One of the branches is here. This 2-carbon branch will have the prefix F and then the suffix YL to indicate that it's a branch. And this branch here will have the prefix meth and the suffix YL. So the next thing we'll want to do is to number our carbon chain from left to right and right to left to see which gives us the lower number locations. So if I number from left to right, I have locations 4 and 6. But if I number from right to left in this case, I have locations 2 and 4. So 4 and 6 is bigger numbers, greater numbers than 2 and 4. So I'm going to choose the right to left numbering. Since I've chose that, I can't use both number schemes. So I'm going to just cross these off because so I don't get confused. So that means my methyl group is on carbon 2 and my ethyl group is on carbon number 4. And the last step before we include all of this is to alphabetize our branches. So E comes before M. So this is called 4-ethyl 2-methyl heptane.
Here is a hydrocarbon where we have 2 identical branches in different locations. So we can see the branches here in green are 1-carbon branches, also known as methyl groups.
So let's look at this one more example. Again, what you can see is that I have a branch because when I move from end to end, I can't touch these carbons unless I lift my finger. So the first thing I want to do is count the carbons in my parent chain. There's 6 carbons, so that means that the parent chain is hex. We have all single bonds, so this is hexane. And now I'm going to look at my branches. So here's one branch, and here's another branch. So this branch has 1 carbon, so it's going to have the prefix meth, suffix YL for a branch. The same here. The next step is to number the carbons in the parent chain so I can give the locations of these branches to the lowest possible number. So my numbers are either 3, 5 or 2, 4. So 2, 4 is the lower orientation. So I'm going to cross off these numbers. I cannot use them. I'm going to use the numbers from right to left. So this is 4 and this is 2. Now, instead of saying 2-methyl, 4-methyl, what we can do is we can call this dimethyl and we can just put the numbers in the front. So this is dimethylhexane and the locations are 2, 4. So this is 2,4-dimethylhexane.
So let's look at this example. Another example where the parent chain has 2 branches that are identical. In this case, we have a methyl group as well.
So here we have a parent chain here. We count the carbons in the parent chain. There are 4, so this is bute. They're all singly bonded, so this is butane. And then I find my branches. So make sure that you realize that this here, the parent chain, and they have 2 branches, one on the top and one on the bottom. So this branch on top has 1 carbon, so it's meth, branch is YL. We do the same for the bottom. Now we have to find the location. So we're going to number our parent chain from left to right and right to left and see what locations we get. So it's either number 2 or number 3. So 2 is less than 3, so I'm going to take out this bottom number scheme. And so I see that I have my methyl groups on the second carbon. But since there's 2 of them, I'm going to have to call it dimethyl butane. And then I need the address. So this is 2,2-dimethylbutane.
So by now you should be able to determine the name of branched hydrocarbons. And that concludes lesson number 63. Make sure that you've taken good notes and you bring your questions to class. I'll see you soon.